I felt like when I got to VSI and talked to Dr. Haines and his team in the office, they saw me as a person with a problem and not a patient that just needed a treatment. Find the team that does care about start to finish, not just getting you through to the next 3 months or try this medication, a whole plan, finding out what your long-term goals are. What what gets you to the point that is good for you, not what they consider success.
In our last episode, we explored the long, often arduous journey that patients face just trying to find a doctor who will truly listen to them and take their pain seriously. Today, we're joined by a very special guest, Lizette Reed, who speaks out about another silent struggle that patients often face, and that's one around their recovery. Too often, recovery is overlooked or underestimated by doctors, but Lizette is here to share her inspiring recovery story and to talk about the healing cycle she finally found her way to that proved otherwise. So, Lizette, welcome and thank you for taking the time to join us.
Thanks for having me. Yeah,
Oh,
appreciate it.
you've had quite a journey, haven't you?
I have. It has been a long couple years.
It has 4 years here. So yeah, let's jump in. Okay, so I want to start at the beginning because you, before the pain started, you were an athlete. What took you from going from an athlete to a patient? Like you talked about doing sports. You were a D1 lacrosse player, right? Like you weren't just working out
Yeah.
at the gym.
Yes. Yeah. As a kid, very active. Grew up outside on the water, fishing, crabbing, kayaking. But when I went to college, being active continued. I played for Boston College women's lacrosse, and they're certainly much better now than when I was there. But I'll take the credit. Um, but yeah, so that's a hard season to play lacrosse. It's three, all year round. And I had two children. I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old. And shortly after I had my 5-year-old, um, my daughter was playing with me and kind of jumped on me weird, and that was when the pain started. And it took me down from being outside and playing with the kids and going to the beach and running, and that was not possible.
So when it started, we're talking about summer of 2020. You had sudden immobility. How bad was the pain? Like, how would you describe what it felt like?
Yeah, the pain was unpredictable, and that almost made it harder because you would fall into a false sense of security, and then it would just be sharp stabbing. It got to the point where my son was around 8 months old. The hardest part is you're going into the crib to pick him up and bending over. Sometimes the pain would be so great, I'd fall into the crib because I could not stand back up. And so it was really challenging, but at that age, I had to stop holding my son and carrying my son around because I couldn't. It was just the pain was too great.
Oh gosh, it's devastating. So you're trying to find help, and it started this 4 year search. And you got pointed to all sorts of things: injections, ablations, a lot of medication. Um, our focus today is about recovery. When you have that kind of pain that you're talking about, how do you recover it from it? What does that look like, and how do you get there? And in the beginning, talk to me about what you were pointed to, and did it get you to recovery? I know, the medication, they kept giving you more and more and more. It got to some really high levels. Did any of it ever help you recover, or was it just getting worse and worse?
Yeah, it was a long journey. I felt like I've tried it all, but in the beginning, physical therapy was great. I recovered really well for 2 months with physical therapy. And to be quite honest, I have continued physical therapy with my same group this whole time. And they have really been a mainstay of helping me do the things I could do at the time and do more that I can do going forward. But it only lasted a short period of time. And I bent to pick up a pencil and I was back to where I had started. And so then began your journey with pain management doctors and clinics and injections. and eventually led to having my first RF ablation. And at that point in time, I had been prescribed to just keep going up and up and up on gabapentin.
Which is
Um,
an opioid?
it is a nerve pain
A nerve
medication,
pain. Okay.
not an opioid, but a controlled substance,
Okay.
and so or monitored substance. And so it does have the potential, and for the same similar effects to an opioid, though, when you're taking it and coming off of it. And so, I was under doctor's guidance, instructed to take more and more and kind of work up my way. And I was at the point where my boss said to me one day, she said, I think that you are struggling. And I said, no, I think it's just the pain. But gabapentin is a nerve pain medication. Your brain is a bundle of nerves. And I was dull at the time, and other people could see it, but I could not. And so I had this ablation, and it was the first time in about a year or so that I finally got some good relief.
But
But they did, but the hard part was is that with that relief, I didn't know enough to that you have to wean off gabapentin. And so I did over a course of a week. I figured you shouldn't just go cold turkey, so I took myself down from um, 24 pills a day to zero in a week. And that didn't go well. I went into withdrawal and I didn't know what was happening.
what did the withdrawal look like?
Insomnia, sweating, shaking, extreme cold, extreme hot. My heart was racing through the roof. Um, I was jittery. I felt awful, nauseous. Um,
So you kind of had to diagnose yourself at that point. You
yeah.
Googled to figure out what was going on and realized, oh, this is what withdrawal looks like.
Yes.
Um, and so then you had to sort of start back over, and then what the process to withdraw in a way that was
Yeah.
healthier for your body took several months. Yes.
Took a long time. Yeah. I ended up calling them and asking about, is this withdrawal, in this recovery from this ablation, I needed more guidance to know how to do this and just giving some feedback. And, they advised that, yes, that's what happens if you abruptly stop it. And so it began about a 3 to 4 month weaning process to get myself off of it. And each pill was hard. Each step was hard.
The goal with recovery is that it's somewhere between probably a straight line or an upward trajectory back to healing, right? Where you have the pain, something's done to address the pain, and then there's clear steps to get you out of it. But it seems to me your recovery, it wasn't even really a recovery, right? You were, instead of a straight line or an upward trajectory, you got stuck in this loop. And
Hmm.
so even after that, after you weaned off, it just kept going, right? More ablations, more medication, more injections. You just got stuck in this loop where you couldn't get out to a full recovery. Yes, is that the problem?
Yeah, in my head, I always felt like I was on a roller coaster, and I could never get to the top of the roller coaster, which in my mind was no pain. Um, it would be okay, we could get up this high, but then and then the pain would start back up again. And I always just felt like we were missing something. And it's hard to advocate for yourself or to know even what to advocate for, while you're in the journey. I ended up changing providers and felt like we were moving in the right direction, though it was the same roller coaster, like every 3 months checking in a new pain medication, a new muscle relaxant. My biggest goal was to avoid opioids the whole time because I did not want to enter that realm. And I ended up having, I think, a total of 17 injections and 3 radiofrequency ablations. And it got to the point in August of 2024 where I was having to use support to stand and walk. I could not, sitting, standing, there was nothing I could do to not be in pain.
I mean, physically, what you're describing just sounds horrendous. What about emotionally and mentally? What was that part like to be stuck
Yeah.
on the roller coaster you're talking about?
So that is maybe one of the best silver linings out of this journey is I discovered therapy, mental health therapy, because this was really emotionally traumatic for me.
I mean, it
Um,
started with you not being able to hold your child, and then to get
yeah,
worse from that is almost hard to even imagine, but it did, didn't it?
it did. Yeah. And so that continued, being able to carry and hold my children, do activities with them, enjoy roller coasters, the things that I, as a person, love to do, much less the things that filled my cup, like fishing and metal detecting. It just wasn't possible. And so, yeah, I started therapy, which it really helped me grasp the emotional trauma from this pain, and kind of try to find my way through it. And it was hard. It was hard.
I mean, my image of you during this time is just a warrior. Like the keep like instead of being able to ride up the roller coaster, it's like you were climbing
Yeah.
it yourself. It sounds so hard. Um, there was a turning point, thank goodness, and it was when you found your way to Dr. Colin Haines. Talk to
Yeah.
me about how you found your way there, and then what was different about it.
Yeah. So my physical therapy team, again, they've been with me through the start. They uh, referred me to a local pain doctor who has a really close relationship with Dr. Haynes, and he said, I know the place for you. And so he referred me to VSI, and I live 3 hours away, and I said, wherever, I'll go wherever. And so I drove up by myself because the kids had school and my husband has work, and we're trying to figure it out. And it was scary being there by myself, I'll tell you that. But it was lovely. From start to finish, you felt taken care of, from check-in to, the whole process. But I will, and I'm probably going to get emotional about this. But I'll never forget when I sat in that office and they said they could help me.
You're gonna make me cry. Why had no one said that to you before?
It was not something that they had said. Yeah, in August when I was struggling so badly, they said, "I don't know how to help you. I am out of options for you." And it's really tough to advocate for yourself again, like I said, when you don't know the options, and when you're with people that are, you feel like, giving you everything that you can get, and find out there was more. And that was the thing. I felt like when I got to VSI and talked to Dr. Haynes and his team in the office, they saw me as a person with a problem and not a patient that just needed a treatment.
That's a huge that's a drastically different approach, right? If we're trying to get someone to recover from pain, I guess the first part of your story is chasing the symptoms and sort of throwing things at the symptoms,
Yeah.
but that doesn't really help you recover from the problem. It's just kind of masking things versus sitting down and saying, all right, let's look at the cause of the problem, and there's something you can actually recover from. So let's compare these two
Yeah.
journeys.
Yeah.
Once he looks at you and says, we can help you with this
Yeah.
problem, um, let's use your story as a guide for other people in case they're stuck on their own roller coaster. What does it look like when recovery is the focus and it's done in a way that feels right and good and healthy? What did that look like?
Yeah. I have to say, relief flooded through my body, because I was like, oh my gosh, like they see me, they see what I need. Um, and I remember him asking me, he's like, what do you like to do? We're getting you back there. Like, and at all of the follow ups too, that's been a question. He's like, so are you doing it? Like,
What was the answer? What was the thing?
I was like, I like to do everything. It's just active, I told him about metal detecting, and we were going to go to Disney shortly after. It's, just being with my children. And I didn't,
Riding a roller coaster? Was that one of them?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and I didn't know it at the time, but the biggest thing that I hadn't been able to do was hold my son. And
Who was about 4 at that time? Or
yeah,
5?
yeah, five, just had turned 5.
Okay.
And so, it was something where, obviously I had to recover from surgery and get there. But when I finally held him, it was just wow.
Um, all right, let's get to that point. So what was the problem? What did they identify and what was the surgery?
Yeah, so I had, I had a L5 S1 disc herniation that had progressed to that point to where it was just bone on bone. Um, and all of my other vertebral joints looked great. And so I actually was eligible for a different kind of surgery that than the one I had ended up happening. But and so there was a couple different options and different things to consider with each one. And Dr. Haines was really enthusiastic about both options, and we were kind of leaning towards the other one, but it just wasn't sitting right, and I there was a possibility that it could take a longer process to heal, or some different things to consider. And I also remember, which I really appreciated from him, was that it just we my husband and I talked about it. We elected to do the fusion, which was an ALAR approach, and it was not what we had, Dr. Haines and I had discussed. It actually wasn't even what we had scheduled for the surgery schedule, but it was so, I was like, listen, I think we talked about it. I'd like to do the other procedure. And I'll never forget what he said then. He says, that's fine. We need to do what's best for you, which is not something people said to me.
Oh, you're going to keep making me cry. What's really interesting is that even though the problem that you and he have to discuss is, right, there's something wrong with your back and you need to fix it, the decision-making process is very much focused on what do you want your life to be like? And that feels very different from the first chapter for you, right?
Right.
It wasn't, it was very focused on where do we need to get you?
Do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And instead of what do you need?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, how do we get you where you
Yeah.
want to be?
Right.
So you talked about feeling heard and listened to.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean exactly? Because it does sound like it's more than just, it's not just I hurt here or right? Like what can you describe? We hear people say that a lot, like I want a doctor who can listen to me. Like what was that for you? What did he listen to?
Yeah. You know, he listened to who I am as a person, just who I was still am, but the things I used to do, the things that made me me, and wanted to get me there. How can we get there? And so, he asked the questions that other people didn't ask, like, what do you want? What are your goals? Like, and so it was super validating, and I felt completely comfortable and at ease, like almost instantly, when that was the approach and the conversations we had.
Knowing that you'd had a really difficult pain medication road before coming to him, was there discussion before surgery about how you recover after surgery using pain medication and to do it in a way that you felt comfortable with? And did you ask anything of him on that front, or what did that part of the conversation look like?
Yeah, I mean, he was so enthusiastic about my recovery to getting back to where I was. I honestly didn't have a ton of questions, but I will say that part of my journey, even before I came to VSI, was that I did want to avoid opioid medications as much as I could. And so that was part of the conversation. And along those lines, the things that I could do to help recovery, avoid that, and get to do the things I need to do. Because everybody's recovery is different. Your goals are different. What you want to go do is different. And so it wasn't just like, here's your discharge sheet, call us if you have questions.
So when you got to that recovery point, when you got on the other side of surgery, what did it look like?
Yeah, I remember, obviously you wake up from surgery and you're a little bit out of it and there's pain, but they make, and there's scientific studies and papers that show that this improves outcome for you if you do this, but they make you walk to your bed from surgery. And I remember, obviously, I had surgical pain from where they had the incision, but I remember standing and I walked in with needing support, holding onto walls, not being able to stand on my own. And I stood after surgery and I was like, oh my gosh, like my back doesn't hurt. Like, yes, the incision on my abdomen is very uncomfortable, but it was like instant. I was like, oh my gosh, it's good. It feels good. Like, and yeah, recovery was a process, but that was amazing. Like, and I'll never forget that feeling either. It's just waking up, standing, and feeling like, yes, this is going to be good.
He had talked to you in advance about what you wanted to get back to. How long did it take you to get back to the things you wanted to get back to? And I'm looking around because I feel like I'm going to need a tissue and I don't have any tissues on my desk. So let's see how I do with your answer here. But all right, how long did it take to getting back to doing the things you wanted to do?
Yeah. I really wanted to take recovery, very seriously. And fortunately, my job was able to give me 3 whole months off. And, it was good. It was, after going through so much to get to where I was, it was really good to have the time to take for myself mentally, physically. And I found myself very quickly connecting differently with my children, with my husband, with the world. And so, as soon as I was able to, I was walking, and each day more and more and more. And we had planned this trip to Disney, and it was 6 weeks after my surgery, and I was like, I just, in the throes of where I was in pain, I could not see how that was possible. And he was like, I think you're going to do it. And so, yeah, we got to the 6 week mark, and sure enough, Disney was awesome. And I wasn't doing all the things because I still was at the 6 week mark, but it didn't hold me back. So,
Did you ride a
um,
roller coaster?
no,
Not
no,
at 6 weeks.
that
Have
was,
you ridden one since then?
yes, that was on the specific discharge instructions. Don't ride roller coasters.
You can go to Disney, but don't ride a roller coaster yet. Yeah.
He's like, this, and he was familiar with some of the rides, so he was like, you could probably do this one and that one, but don't
But
do.
to hold off on this one.
Yeah,
What about holding your children?
yeah. So I was hesitant, and I took my time with that because, again, there's pretty specific instructions for when you can hold and pick up weights, and kind of ease into that. So it was still a while, but I would say by Christmas time, which was, or January, that was where I was cleared to do no restricted activity, at the 3 month mark, and it was amazing. Um, there's a picture of me up on top of like a watchtower. We went to a state park to camp out shortly thereafter, and I'm holding my son.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry. I mean, you didn't get a hold of him when he was a baby,
Yeah,
but what
yeah,
you finally got to do it when he was 5, and it must have been.
yeah.
It's
It was.
even more amazing then when you think of the size of a 5-year-old.
I know, I
Um,
know. I mean, he was a lot bigger then. So, in many ways, VSI, Dr. Haines, and the surgery whole thing gave me my life back.
I don't have Kleenex, Lizette.
Yeah,
What are you doing to me?
yeah,
Okay.
I know.
That's amazing. What's life like now? So you're now what, a year out?
Coming up on it. Yeah, in October
Okay.
will be a year out. Yeah, it's been great. I will say I sprained my MCL over the summer, so that's been a little bit of a journey, but I was doing it playing sand wiffle ball, which is awesome.
So let's look out for the silver lining
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was running and sand wiffle ball. I've been metal detecting, swimming.
So
Yeah,
we'll get the knee fixed and then
the
you'll be
knee
back at
is,
it.
we got it.
But the back is
I,
feels good.
I, that being said, I could not have handled having a knee injury if I didn't have a good back.
Wow.
There would have been no way that I could have done this. I'm sure I would have figured it out, but it would have been so hard. So
You have a good back now.
I have a good back. I
Wow.
have a good back.
So what's your What's your advice for people? I know I hear the doctors at VSI a lot say recovery shouldn't be an afterthought. So for you, what is it that you want other people to know? Because look, this was not for lack of trying. You are a smart woman, and you were working really hard to fix this. And what happened to you happens to a lot of people, where it's just really hard to find the people and the places that can get you where you need to be.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
and
that,
yeah, what do you tell people? Because it's hard to find your way sometimes.
yeah, I think that it is hard because you lose energy and steam when you're in pain. It's just you have this much less ability to deal with things, and not giving up on yourself to advocate to find the team that does care about start to finish, not just getting you through to the next 3 months or try this medication, a whole plan, finding out what your long-term goals are, what what gets you to the point that is good for you, not what they consider success.
I think that's so helpful, Lizette. And I think you're highlighting something that maybe isn't always so obvious, because when you're in pain, you want the pain relief. But what I
Yeah.
think is really interesting about your story is the turning point came when someone took that wider view of not just like, what are you feeling now, but where do you want to get to? Like,
Yeah.
what are you trying to recover to get back to doing? And so that recovery frame is a really interesting way of maybe helping you find the right team, because if you can find a team who will ask those questions and focus on that, then perhaps that's getting you on the right path. Is that what I'm
Yeah.
hearing?
Yeah. I mean, you in the throes of it, you feel like you are doing the things you need to be doing, but it doesn't quite feel right, and you just it's hard to look beyond that. And I just would say, finding the team that does that, to look beyond where you're at, to look to the future, because that, you know, process of getting there, whatever needs to happen to get you there, to recover to the person you need to be a human, a whole person, that's the thing.
That is the thing. You're gonna make. I might have said a crying. I
Something.
think I set a crying record on this one with you.
Yeah.
I
But I
hope
had
nobody goes back.
all the tears, but it turns out,
Yeah, please don't go back and count how many times Lizette and
yeah,
I have cried on this one.
yeah,
Um,
pretty much.
Beautiful, amazing. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for your
Yes, thank
time.
you for having me. And I think goodness for every day for VPSI and their team, honestly.
Don't give up. Don't give up.
Yeah,
That's the message to others out there. Thank you, Lizette.
you're welcome. Thanks so much.